So right here, I am showing you that dividing my art surface into thirds, is a good way to create a composition if you are conscious of placing things in thirds. So right now, with a palette knife, I am painting where the trees are going to meet the grass on that section, which is one third or 2/3 down on the page. Instead of it being exactly in the middle, it's better to have things like off center, and the way you do that is in thirds. Now I'm using, after I've applied it with the palette knife, which is raw umber mixed with white, I am using a cardboard edge, corrugated cardboard edge, and if you're new here, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications of future videos. So I used a cardboard edge and dragging it up, from starting at the bottom where the wet paint is, dragging it up. And I just thought this is a good way to make trees. And I've already did my lightest color first. You need the light colors in the background to make it more atmospheric. And now I'm going in with my middle tone brown. And not going to cover it as much as the first color, only because you want some of the first color showing through. And now I'm going back in with the darkest tone. And there I'll use it more sparingly. And I just thought a cardboard edge is a good way to make trees. Please like this video and share it out. And now, again with the darkest color, I'm making tree branches with the short side of the cardboard edge. So I encourage you to try household items to paint with. It doesn't always have to be paintbrushes. And then I make sure that layer was dry. Now I'm going to use some of this green and a dark green. So the first one was like a yellow green, and that one is, I don't know the name of that green. I'll probably list it down in my materials list in the description box. So here I am using a paintbrush. I'm going to just apply a dark green first. And yes, I am doing this in my art journal. Oh, and the beginning when I showed you where the thirds are, I had drawn that with a light blue chalk line, soft pastel chalk line, and that way you can just rub it away to erase it, and it's no problem painting over it. And then I did use that yellow green for some highlights on the grass, but I'll be coming back to the grass. But now I'm using magenta and a sea sponge. Now I don't know if a regular kitchen sponge would work, but definitely a sea sponge I believe is a tool worth getting. So it's so cool. It's creating the effect of this bush, better than any of the paintbrushes that I have. I think if I had some like huge brushes, like 2-inch, can almost look like house brushes, they would work. And I am going to try that in a future video of changing the kind of brushes I use. But for the brushes that I have, I would not be able to create this effect with the bush. The sea sponge just does such a great job. So I started off with a dark tone first, then a middle tone. I went in with white while the dark magenta was still drying, and that created a middle tone pink. And now I'm going to use purple, dark violet, and that will be my darkest tone, which needs to go under the flower bush. That's where some shadow would be. And then I decided to make it pop more to use some hot pink. And I did really do it like how that color pops. Now I'm using a yellow, and I'm not sure which kind of yellow. It's probably cadmium medium yellow, I believe. And then I just decide with my finger to paint the highlights in the grass, and it works well. Painting with my finger works surprisingly well, and actually in controlling the paint, and also letting the paint look more spontaneous and painterly. And then I mix the green with white, so it's very light green. I'm going to sponge that on to give it the effect of the early buds that we see in the early leaf buds that we see in the trees that are always really light green. So if you're going to do this project, I encourage you to try using some objects that are not necessarily paintbrushes, and create a picture about springtime. Now this was the view out my window, not the exact view, but that's where the inspiration came from, a view out my window. So maybe a flower garden will inspire you, or just anything that you're seeing around, because spring is so beautiful. Maybe the forsythia bushes, because they're out where we live. They're the ones that are out right now, and buds are forming in the trees right now. So anything like that would inspire you. Or even if you just want to paint a vase of flowers. Okay, so anything spring related. And I encourage you to, this is acrylic paint, I encourage you to try to paint it, and don't just use all paintbrushes. Try different objects for painting as well. So I'm pretty happy how this turned out. And the fact that it's in my art journal could be an idea for a future painting. And now here are close-up shots of the finished art journal spread. I added more highlights of different shades of green in the grass. So thank you so much for watching, and please check out my other videos after this one. I have other videos in all different subjects that might interest you. Thank you so much.